RV parks are crushing it right now. There's an RV park, RV industry boom. People are traveling more and more. There isn't the government oversight and maybe kind of interjection into the vacation business like there is in the long-term rental business. The other thing too is I'd rather buy nice places with nice people on vacation who pay me before they get there, rather than go buy that same Class C building that I've been buying for the last 5 or 6 years that now is double or triple the price, has less and less return, but has even more or the same work that I've been doing.
This is your daily real estate syndication show. I am your host, Whitney Sewell. Our guest today purchased a property for more than it appraised for. And 6 months later, it appraised for many, many, many times what he paid for it. It went from $850,000 to $5 million. So I hope that catches your attention, because today our guest, Jeremy Hands, he's a Navy helicopter pilot turned commercial real estate investor. He was on active duty while syndicating many deals with his business partner, multifamily mobile home parks. But then he pivoted to a different asset class, RV parks. And that is not something we've talked about on the show too many times. We haven't had too many guests who are focused on syndicating RV parks at a big scale. And he is doing just that. He's built a team. He's growing very quickly. And so it's incredible to hear the story, but just the willingness to change as well from one asset class to another when he saw an opportunity. And man, did he see an opportunity that he's going to share about today and how they did that. Jeremy, welcome to the show. I was honored to meet you at an event not too long ago and hear some of the fun things or exciting things that you're doing in your business, and even some of your background that I think is very unique. So yeah, just grateful to have you on. I know you have a busy, growing family right now as well, which is very fun. But give us a little bit about your syndication background. Maybe go back a little bit. I know you have military background, and I want to thank you for your service just right off the bat. So grateful. But tell us a little bit about maybe moving from military and what you did there, but moving into real estate as well and syndication.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks, Whitney, for having me. It's always fun to meet a syndication celebrity in person, right? As much as that can be a thing. So Jeremy Hands started off life as a Navy helicopter pilot, commissioned in back 2007. So did that on active duty for 10 years. While on active duty, I was in San Diego, bought my first real estate kind of deal, got a little bit of a taste for it, and then got shipped to flight school, where I was a flight school instructor in about 2013. When I got to flight school, I started hunting around trying to figure out what my next deal in real estate was going to be. It was still definitely a hobby at the time, and got into trying to buy mobile home parks. And my partner now, we were both trying to buy the same mobile home park back 2014. He was a Marine Corps flight instructor. I was a Navy flight instructor. We lived a block from each other. We went to the same church, had a lot of very similar commonalities. We said, hey, why don't we not compete, but let's instead maybe work together on this deal. So we started working together, bought some small mobile home parks, and then took some classes to figure out, hey, how do we do this on a larger scale? So we literally took that class and then immediately set up to starting to syndicate. Our first syndication was a mobile home park in 2014. Unfortunately, it didn't close. The guy died 2 days before closing. So as two flight instructors still on active duty, our first big real estate deal was a $35,000 bill with nothing to show for it. And so that was a painful process, learned about the probate process. But from that, we were like, hey, if we can raise money for this, we can probably do it again. So while I was going through probate, we ended up syndicating a small office building. And then that moved on to us syndicating about 2 apartment deals a year for the next 3 or 4 years while we're still on active duty. We both left full-time work in the Navy Marine Corps in 2020 and 2021, respectively. And so we launched our Client Capital, focused on like everybody else, right? Buying multifamily, buying mobile home parks. And then in late 2021, we kind of decided, hey, there's probably some frothiness here in the market in the places that we're looking at. And so we had pivoted and bought personally with just, single investors at JV, a couple RV parks. And so we decided late 2021, let's pivot from doing these multifamily deals. We've gone full cycle on a handful of them now. Let's pivot this over to RV parks. So that gets us where we are today. My partner is now completely out of the Marine Corps. I am still a Navy reservist, and I'm still buying real estate. So I think that's the quick overview.
You mentioned, Jeremy, that you took some classes. What classes did you all take to learn to syndicate? I get questions like that, mentorship, all that stuff all the time. We won't spend a ton of time there, but what did you all do to learn about syndication? So
it was a little bit of a 2 or 3 part series there. I took the Mobile Home Park University 3-day boot camp. My partner and I both took the Elite Legacy Education. It used to be the Rich Dad, Poor Dad education commercial class. That's where we probably got a lot of the X's and O's. And I also joined Brad Sumrock's Foundations Group. So those were kind of the three kind of amalgamations. And then shortly, what I did is I invested in 3 or 4 syndications, and then just learned what they were doing, copied everything from providers, from providers to emails to, hey, that's what people are doing. They're doing successfully. Let's just look the same.
Well, you don't have to reinvent the wheel often, right? It's incredible. But what I hear, though, there is that you did invest quite a bit into your education, right? You're willing, I mean, 3 different courses there, or one way or another. You found mentorship, you found other people that had been there and done that. So important. The hesitancy I hear so often from people to do that. I'm like, what do you expect? You're right. Who are you around right now? I bet you're a lot like that person, right? So you got to find these other people who are doing these things that you want to do. And you did that. So appreciate you mentioning that. Speak to also, you mentioned that you and your business partner were syndicating. I think it's really cool how you all partnered as well, by the way. That's so neat. But you are syndicating 2 multifamily deals a year while still on active duty. All right. How did you manage that? Speak to that a little bit, because I get that question often as well. I've lived that as well, full-time job while trying to syndicate deals. It's no easy feat, especially growing family at the same time.
Yeah. So, at the same time, I think between the 2 of us, we each had probably, 5 or 6 kids over those couple of years also. The short answer is you can do anything you put your mind to it, right? If you want to do it and it matters enough to you, being military, we kind of have a sea tour and a short tour rotation. Our sea tours, we're gone on deployment. We're gone all the time. It's tough to get anything else done. But on a short tour, you get a little time to breathe. So, we took the opportunity kind of in the career break that we had where, hey, we were home most nights. We had the weekends off to kind of focus on that stuff. So really it was, breaking up the problem to smaller bite-sized pieces and then just doing a couple a year, right? We weren't buying 500 units at a time. We weren't buying, a deal a month. We were doing 2 a year. That's a very doable, project when you really think about it. So that was kind of our thought process. Let's not try to wholesale 20 houses a month. Let's try to do 2 commercial deals a year that make the same amount of money. I think it's worked out. So finding nights and weekends and, getting off Netflix would probably be the other answer.
Love that. Make it simple, right? And I know there's probably a listener to also that are thinking, oh yeah, that's easy to say, 2 deals a year. They're wishing they could make that happen, right? And I love the simplicity behind how you look at it, right? Hey, well, just get off Netflix or, because that is often the case. It's like the average American spending 3 to 5 hours a day on social media, or maybe even more if you consider all social media and TV, right? It's like, man, the things you could be doing with that time, it's habits, right? It goes back to those.
And I'll go back to, right, as a flight instructor for the last few years, you can do anything you put your mind to, right? I can teach your mom how to fly a helicopter. The question isn't whether I can teach your mom to fly a helicopter. The question is, can I teach your mom to fly a helicopter in the 10 days that the Navy gives me to teach somebody to fly a helicopter, right? And so, we're all capable of doing basically anything. It's just how fast can you push that process for your time? When you're a guy like me, who I don't think I'm necessarily all that smart, but I'll show up and I'll try. It's amazing how many things you can do if you just take one step forward and figure out the rest as you keep going. I didn't know what I was doing the first time. I still don't know what I'm doing now the 15th time, but I hire really good people and they keep me out of jail and from making big mistakes. So
learning to fly a helicopter in 10 days. Now that's intimidating right there. Not syndicating a large deal. Like I can go make that happen, but man, however, that would be pretty cool to learn that. But I want to jump though to something that's happened recently in your business. And I want to talk through that a little bit, because you all have made a big pivot recently. Right. I want to talk through, why, and you all were so focused on mobile home parks, multifamily. You've been syndicating multifamily deals. You even took a large course, on mobile home parks. I'm sure you learned a lot through that. But now you've taken a pivot to a different asset class that maybe we've talked about once or twice on the show. This is like episode almost 1300, 1200 and some. And we've probably not talked about this asset class more than 2 or 3 times. And I'm just trying to be generous here because I can't remember for sure. But speak to the asset class you all are focused on now and why. And let's talk about, making it worthwhile to pivot from where you were focused.
So the answer really comes down to COVID, right? So, we started Climb Capital right as COVID kicked off. Our first big deal, we were literally walking inspection units like the week when everybody was like, should we be in units? Should we not be in units, right? And then the eviction moratorium where the government said, hey, I can't evict anybody. And oh, by the way, they don't have to pay. And oh yeah, we'll pay them back. But that took, months, if not years. And, we've had some just really poor outcomes from that, right? And, some of that might be our fault for not communicating better. A lot of it was clientele and tenants that we inherited that we didn't have any opportunity to kind of adjust before we got to the mix of that. But what we realized in 2021, we had about 3 RV parks at the time. these things are working really well. Management was really difficult, but we had figured out after kind of, struggling for 2020 how to do it, that we could manage these things. If we bought the right parks in the right places with the right people, put some systems together, kind of went up and down on, what software do we need to use? What's the management plan? But we kind of came up with our little, moat, our little piece. And we're like, our RV parks are crushing it right now. There's an RV park, RV industry boom. People are traveling more and more. There isn't the government oversight and maybe kind of interjection into the vacation business like there is in the long-term rental business. People getting squeezed out of their rentals is making the New York Times. Even yesterday, I think the mobile home park, was getting another shout out by the New York Times of, people getting these super high rate raises as people are buying them up, bring them to market. We were just like, we want to stay out of the newspaper. We want to make money. And, the other thing too, is I'd rather buy nice places with nice people on vacation who pay me before they get there, rather than go buy that same Class C building that I've been buying for the last 5 or 6 years, that now is double or triple the price, has less and less return, but has even more or the same work that I've been doing. So for us, it was kind of both a macro trend analysis of like, hey, this probably looks like a better play for now. There's still much higher cap rates to be able to be purchased at. And then it was also it's just a lifestyle choice, right? We got young kids. We like to RV. We like to vacation. This seems like a lot better way to make money than, fighting everybody else to try to go buy the same Class C building in Class C areas.
Yeah, I think it speaks to, another quality that you have that a lot of people haven't developed. And I struggle with this as well, is like the willingness to change, right? You see an opportunity. It's great that, this is a great quality for a lot of entrepreneurs. Like, man, you see an opportunity and you go take advantage of it, right? You don't hem and haw around about it, think, maybe no, I'm just going to stay over here in my silo. Nope. You see an opportunity, I can use the skill sets I already have to go hammer on that, and you all are doing that. I love that. And I think that's, military pushes you to do that in many ways as well, right? I mean, you got to take advantage of opportunity when you see it. Speak to that though, like even the thought of that big change, like switching from mobile home parks to or multifamily to RV parks, right? Man, that's probably out of your comfort zone initially. Maybe I don't know. Like how did you figure out this new asset class, or think, no, this is worth focusing on this completely and stopping on multifamily or mobile home parks for a while?
So for the first RV park, so we bought an RV park in beginning of 2020, but it was more like a mobile home park setup. It was RVs, but there was no amenities. That was kind of our first taste of it. That was also our first realization it's really tough to find third-party management for those kinds of assets. And so we started self-managing at that point. We tripped over ourselves for the first 6 months, and we ended up buying our first, what we'd call destination RV park, what we're buying now at the end of 2020. And it was a deal that came to us locally. Another guy brought it to us. We put it under contract. Weren't sure if we really wanted to get to it, kind of pushing it off. The owner became really ready to sell. She provided a second note and provided a promissory note to our company to basically act in almost a third position to ensure that we could buy this thing with no money down just to get her out of it. And we were walking to closing, paying $25,000 more than the appraisal of what this thing came in at, right? So it was appraised at $850. We were buying for $875, 42 spaces, right close to where we're at, real close to my business partner's house. We weren't sure if we should buy it. Well, we were like, let's just do it. We'll figure it out. We're smart guys. And if we don't, whatever, we can sell it and move on. Well, 6 months later, we'd raised the rents, started fixing things up, expanding the park. We got it reappraised for $5 million. We said, maybe we should do this more often, right? Like maybe we found something we didn't realize. And so what we realized was that there's a lot of owners that were like that seller, really nice lady. She lived there for 19 years, wasn't using the technology to the max extent practicable, didn't have the management or the policies, right, to continue to raise rates, to keep things cleaned up, to make adjustments to the market. And we're like, well, we can clean this place up and make a lot of money. And so that became we'll do that a couple more times.
Vertical Street Ventures is excited to announce their first annual national conference, Financially Free in 3, a conference for real estate investors. This is a 2-day event happening on June the 4th and 5th in Scottsdale, Arizona. At this conference, you will hear from experts on how to leave your day job and become a full-time real estate investor. Understand the tax-efficient strategies to keep more of what you earn. Learn how to buy real estate assets that create passive income for you. Meet hundreds of like-minded people and the unique opportunity to take a bus tour around large and small multifamily properties to learn how these investments are operated. There will be world-class speakers and industry experts, including Hunter Thompson, Michael Becker, Paul Peebles, Amanda Hahn, and more. Go to vsvcon.com to grab your ticket. Make the decision to get out from the sidelines and learn about new opportunities to build your wealth. This will be the most critical investment you'll ever make in yourself. Again, visit vsvcon.com today. Yeah. Wow. You said 6 months, then it appraised for $5 million. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So what were a couple of things though that you noticed, or did you all know that like ahead of time? Did you think it would appraise for something like that? I mean, when you all were paying $25,000 more than what it appraised for then?
No. I mean, there was no expectation that we were going to see that kind of, valuation jump. We knew that there was a lot of opportunity to increase revenues on the table, right? She hadn't raised rents for long-term tenants. She wasn't focusing as much on the short-term tenants, which has a much higher, revenue source. There was a lot of just deferred maintenance. We knew that there was opportunities to double the value. I don't think we thought it would go that fast, but the more research we did, we realized that there's not enough RV spots, right? People have been buying RVs in droves over the last few years. And if you're trying to go somewhere and visit someplace, good luck finding a spot if you haven't had that pre-planned for some of these more desirable locations.
Yeah. Wow. What were a couple of the bigger things that helped you to increase that value? Was it, just raising rent, or were there other things that helped you?
Well, so one is, if you're paying nightly, it's just like real estate, right? If you're buying acres and selling inches, you're going to make a lot more money selling the inches. Same thing applies to kind of reservations. So if I'm selling nightly reservations at $50 to $60 a night, that's going to be much better than, renting out at $400 a month, right, for the same spot. And so it was, transforming the park to having more focus on the short-term rentals, bringing the long-term rates back to a semblance of a normalcy or some kind of market, and then fixing things so people actually wanted to be there, right? Making sure the pool worked, keeping the bathrooms clean, cleaning up the interior in the office. We ended up repaving the park, right? Brand new roads. So, we spent a lot of money on it too, but it's not rocket science that if you build it, people will come. If you don't have it, they can't come, right? So that's really what it came down to for us.
Do you see a lot of opportunity in the RV park space or asset class? Like, lots of those that potentially are for sale. I mean, from what I'm hearing you talk about, it seems like the initial boom, and I say initial, like just a few years ago, I know it's been going on for a long time, but it's like when more and more people started hearing about mobile home parks, right? Well, it's the small mom and pop, type industry, and there's a lot of them to be had and a lot of value there that, all those things. Well, this sounds similar, to that initial flare up, to desire to get into that space.
I hesitate to say it, but yeah, I mean, it's mobile home parks 5 years ago, right? I mean, it's a fractured industry. Nobody's talking about it. Financing is still difficult. There's not a lot of, super eager financing options for RV parks. There's a messaging problem. Even our investors don't realize that we're buying destination vacation RV resorts, not mobile home parks. They just hear RVs. They think it's a trailer park. Yeah, there's definitely still a lot of opportunity, but that opportunity is also crashing pretty quick, right? We're not the only people doing this. Big money starting to look for more, yield. And so they're going to go to the next asset class. If you can figure out how to manage them effectively, there's an opportunity here. So that's kind of what we've hit on now. And we'll see how many we can buy before everybody else catches up with us.
Yeah, that's incredible. I love this, the willingness to go after it, and to change. What are some of the more difficult, spots or things in buying an RV park that maybe I wouldn't even know to ask you? I've never bought an RV park.
RV park's similar to a mobile home park when it comes to the actual facilities. I'd say that the thing that you really have to look at for an RV park, though, is the destination of if you're going trying to improve it, are you in a position and a place that people want to be, right? And so, just from you personally, right? You have a couple kids. I have a couple kids. Is this a place I'd want to go vacation? If the answer is no, well, then what would change that? Is it the amenities at the park, or is it the location? If you're buying a huge park in the southern Louisiana, which we keep seeing for sale, that's not really a vacation destination, right? That's really more of a mobile home park for guys who work in oil fields. Not a knock against it. It's just not what we're looking for. And so, it's pretty basic. Like, hey, is there a pool? Is there some water? Is there something that my kids can do? Is this near any place I want to be? And if it kind of hits those wickets, then that's, enough for us to keep moving forward. It's pretty loose. There's not a lot of data. That's the other thing. There's not like RV park data sources. There's not an ALN. There's not a CoStar. I mean, most people at CoStar don't have any data on this stuff. So, and there's some kind of working in the blind and just kind of, trusting your gut as you kind of keep pushing forward right now.
No data. Well, that's interesting to think about as well. How do you all gather those things, or what do you use to figure out, hey, this is, what it's worth, or at least approximate values, or those things?
I mean, the same underwriting models that we use for multifamily and mobile home parks, self-storage, so we underwrite. We have a full-time underwriter who we've adapted our spreadsheets to be able to be more RV focused. And then a lot of that is just kind of learning that we've created over owning the last, 5 or 6 RV parks that we've had, and the 4 more that we're under contract on now. So we're creating our own data.
What about developing RV parks? Any thoughts around, finding land and doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. We're actively doing it ourselves. And the first thing we needed to do for our development plan was to go to the county and get a conditional use. And so we already had the zoning we needed. We just needed this conditional use. It's supposed to be just kind of a check in the box. And we showed up and there was 35 people from the community and they voted us down and said they weren't going to give us the conditional use. So development is great, but development isn't free. It takes a long time. And there's a lot of other, not in my backyard type neighbors. And so we will continue to develop, but that's not really a short-term solution. That's probably a 2 or 3 year process. Lots of capital up front for a payoff that's good in the end, but we'd much rather buy stuff already operating, improve or increase, and then develop once in a while when we have, some more free time, which we don't have.
No, that makes a ton of sense as far as the developing piece. I could just see developing an RV park seems a lot more doable than, say, developing a multifamily property or, something like that. I've stated some.
It is. But I can tell you a lot of people I know are trying to develop RV parks. You get done. It's not a magic. You still have to have a plan to manage it, right? So it's one thing to build it up out of the ground. That's definitely doable. But then what, right? There's still that step 2. And so there's a time and a management component to that.
What's been your biggest challenge over the last 6 to 12 months?
So for us, I think is, going from Bob and Jeremy at Climb Capital to now having a company, right? And so we just brought on our 5th in-house Climb Capital employee, plus a couple of rotating interns. And then we've taken on all of the property management in-house too, as a subsidiary of Climb Capital. So, we're at a 20-person plus company and growing pretty rapidly. So having to go from just me and Bob talking every night via text to having to create a company and having policies and travel policies and procedures and HR stuff. That's definitely been a struggle. And I think anybody that's been a small business owner kind of recognizes, I don't have the answer for tomorrow, but we'll solve the questions for today and just kind of keep plugging away.
Give us a couple of tips on how you solve the HR piece and some of that as far as hiring, now 20 plus employees.
If I had the HR piece all figured out, I'd be glad to give you the answer. We just continue to kind of figure it out as we go along, try to meet with as many other business owners as possible. We met at an event with a lot of other business owners. That's the kind of stuff where I'm just tapping those people for questions and answers. And then when it comes to the actual hiring piece, the thing that we have found is we want to hire for the qualities of the person, and then we'll teach them the job. So everybody's looking to hire somebody that already is qualified that can show up day one. We've kind of given up on that. We really want to hire somebody that's going to have the right personality traits, meet the same core values, and we'll teach you how to do the job. It's a lot more work on our end up front, but we think the long term it's going to work out a lot better. And we're kind of creating a culture that we want to be at. This thing I have to remind myself every day is if I run the place and I don't like being here, it's only my own fault, right? So I didn't leave the military to go to a job I hate. So I got to remember every day that I'm the one who creates that.
Yeah, that's incredible advice right there, man. If that's all you said during the whole show, it's great, man. You are in charge of that culture there, and HR struggles. I just had a call with someone just this morning who was asking me about our growth and was saying, how did you know when to hire? How did you know? All those things, right? And as you grow, man, you have to, right?
Right.
I mean, you just can't do everything yourself, or you just have no life, and then it's just not worthwhile. So, just appreciate you, bringing light into that. They asked me, did you follow some blueprint, that helped you to know when to hire or something? What about you? I'll ask you. They asked me that.
I am the ultimate copier, right? So I don't create anything new, right? So we use the Traction book by Gino Wickman, EOS. I think a lot of guys use that. And then we use a book called Who by Jeff Smart for our hiring process specifically. Both pretty short books. And I literally just reread them every time before I get ready to hire somebody. And okay, that's what he tells me to do. I'm going to go do it. And surprise, surprise, it works pretty well. So yes.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I think it's great advice. I also, Traction, which I was just talking about it on another show this morning. I mean, Traction, man, EOS, right? You're operating a business. Yeah, you got to learn. And then you mentioned the other book by Jeff Smart. Yep. I've got
Jeff
one, Top Grading by Bradford Smart. I think they're similar. I don't know if they're related at all.
Almost the exact same. In fact, I think they have some connection over about a 10-year period. So yeah, same exact concept.
I recommend that book often for some of those tips. It's helped us in hiring, to say the least. What about, have you all hired an implementer to help implement EOS or any of those things?
I am the implementer. So 2 partners, right? So my partner is definitely much more the visionary, good idea a day. Sometimes I got to remind them good ideas have to be implemented to ever be good ideas. And so we self-implemented that over the last year and a half, and then have also implemented it into our property management company. So we're actually running EOS on 2 different levels between the 2 companies. And I'd say we're probably only 50% of EOS right now, right? We'd like to do more and more, but we're being fair to ourselves and get ourselves some time to kind of keep the process kind of continue going forward.
Yeah, that's incredible. And what about, do you have any predictions for just the real estate market over the next 6 to 12 months? Anything you all are more focused on buying or selling or both, or, what are you planning for?
So, the thing I think for us, especially focusing on RV parks, is, what happens if there is some kind of dip in the overall economy? Is, gas prices go up? Does that affect things? And our answer is yes, it probably does. We've been delevering a little bit. We can't lever nearly as high with RV parks as we were with apartments. We've been selling off for some of our apartments to focus more and more on the RVs. So we've been delevering kind of naturally because there just isn't an opportunity to lever as much. And then we're recognizing too that as things change, people still go on vacation. 2007, 2008, 2009 was really difficult, but most people still did something, right, to get out of their house for a week at a time, especially if you got some little kids. And so we're trying to make sure that we are continuing to focus on being that provider. So maybe they're not going to be able to afford to go to Disneyland or drive to the Grand Canyon from Florida, but they may be able to go 2 hours out of town to our RV park that has the pool that's down by the river and go hang out for a week at a time. So just being prepared for maybe that switch. And if the things go nuclear and the country falls apart, RV parks can also become a mobile home park pretty much overnight by just allowing people to stay there, long term and sign a lease. And so we are always considering the downside. That's kind of just how we work as pilots. The first person to the scene of a crash, of a helicopter crash, is the helicopter pilot. And so if I'm going to ride this thing all the way down, I'd like to make sure it's as soft as possible. So I still see a lot of good things happening going forward. I think there's going to be some adjustments, but I don't think it's going to affect what we're doing as much maybe as it will with some other tranches of the real estate market.
It's interesting to think about, like that. Kind of a backup plan or downturn plan, worst comes to worst. You can turn it into a mobile home park, or do long-term leases. That's incredible. Tell me your best source for meeting new investors right now. So I'm doing a daily TikTok. And so I don't know if it's the best source yet, but I decided I needed to do some marketing, needed to do some kind of, social media presence. Kind of did a little bit of a scan across and decided I don't have a good eye for Instagram. Facebook's for us old people. Snapchat's not going to be my thing, but I can do a TikTok in the elevator as I try to, come to work every day. So I try to do a TikTok every day or so on commercial real estate or RV park investing. I'm terrible at it. I have lots of loathing over it, but just slowly but surely, I've been getting more people asking me questions about investing here locally, and then just also kind of coming out of rando places from doing that than I have anything else recently. Now, are you having to dance on there? I typically don't dance. I think I've done one, I've had one where I'm dancing, but I'm actually trying to provide value, right? Like short form content that I would want to read and hear myself. But I would probably, I got a marketing guy now. He's telling me I got to dance and, sing. So we'll see what happens here over the next couple months. I know nothing about TikTok. And so I've not got on TikTok yet personally. So to be clear, I also don't know anything about TikTok. My marketing guy came the other day. He's like, why have you had a pink filter on every single video for the last month? I didn't know they had filters. So I'm still learning myself. So you don't have to be good. You just have to do it. Right. Jeremy, tell me about some maybe daily habits that you're disciplined about that have helped you achieve this level of success. I'm a Christian guy, right? Come from that background. So, prayer and gratitude, I think are definitely a big thing that I try to instill in myself and also in my kids and my family. And so I think that definitely is helpful, kind of constantly seeing that, where I'm at today is not necessarily just for myself. It's from all the other people that have helped me. I have a bigger purpose than just what I'm doing. So that definitely kind of is the motivation and kind of the source of what keeps me moving forward. And then the thing that I've done recently is just trying to use a daily note-taking app on my iPad so I can keep all of my thoughts in one place that I can then find again. Because I don't know if anyone else has done this where you write stuff down all the time, but then you can't find all those great thoughts, weeks and months later or notes later. So trying to do kind of I would call it some kind of daily journaling would be how I describe it. Inefficient daily journaling. What's the app? I think I use Goodreader. Again, I don't know. Somebody told me to download it. I downloaded it. Here I go. I'm not going to be perfect. I'm just going to keep moving. So yeah, it's great. It's great. As long as you're making progress, strides forward. Yeah. What about, you can pick one thing that's contributed to your success? I think the biggest one for me is just doing it, right? Just moving forward, right? We talk to people every week that want to do what I'm doing. And I say, well, just do it. Like, there's no secrets to what I've done. I've told you how I've done it. Like, just go do it now. Right. So being willing to sign, much bigger checks much earlier than other people, I think is really the difference in my success and some other people. And I don't think we've always done
perfectly, but because we've just kept playing the game, if you keep swinging the bat, occasionally you'll hit a crack and you'll get that home run, but you can't even get a single if you don't go swing the bat. So just stepping up to the plate over and over, do deals every day.
How do you like to give back?
So I love the idea of trying to help other people know what I know. So outside of just doing the Navy Reserve thing, continue to kind of serve in that capacity. It's both a benefit to be able to serve, but it's also really fun to fly helicopters and get paid for it, if I'm being honest. But the other one that I'm a real big fan of is personal finance coaching. And so one of the things I do is I teach a benevolence class for people that are asking for help or handouts that come through our church and our ministries. And so 90-minute class, once a week to give people kind of a breakdown of how to budget and save and how to find a job or interview better to be able to kind of go live a fulfilling life at whatever level they're at.
Love that. I appreciate you giving back in that way. Those are things that are, often not taught, right? With something that seems simple to some of us, like budgeting or even an interview skill, right? I remember interviewing.
And things change too, right? I think that people forget, you don't go walk into a restaurant anymore to ask for an application. That's not how it's done in 2022, right? So right. I think some of the ways that we look for employment or how we get a job has changed too. So helping people kind of walk through that is kind of one of my real passions.
Yeah. Jeremy, I'm grateful to have had you on the show. Grateful to have met you at an event recently that we were both at and just learn about your success. And you're really opening our eyes to this new asset class, or it seems new, right? I know people have been doing this a long time, but this is, I don't hear much talk about it just yet. So, give it a year and it'll be like the new thing, right? And so just grateful though that are willing to share about it, lessons learned, even that deal, right? I mean, you paid more than it was appraised for, but man, look, 6 months later, I mean, it's just an incredible story, of finding that diamond in the rough, but even willing to pay more to make it happen when you saw that there was a lot of value to be had there. Your willingness to change from one asset class to another when you see opportunity and taking advantage of it. I think it's a great character quality, that many are afraid to do, right? Or afraid to step out there and change, and we miss out in a big way. Jeremy, how can the listeners get in touch with you and learn more about you?
So the easiest way to probably find me would be on the website or through the email that's on the website on climbcapital.com, like climb like a tree, or you can find me on Facebook or even on TikTok. I'll be glad to reach out and be able to help in any way I can.
Look for that pink filter, right?
Yes.
Thank you for being a loyal listener of the show. Please subscribe and share it with your friends. We want to help you become the passive investor you've always wanted to become, but also the operator you've always wanted to become. We want to be the number one resource for your real estate investing journey. But go to lifebridgecapital.com where you can start investing in real estate today.